What if I told you the difference between choking under pressure and performing at your absolute peak isn't your mindset, it's not your talent, it's not how many hours you put in, it's the space between your heartbeats. For a big presentation, before you walk onto the pitch, before you make a call that changes everything, your body has already cast a vote on whether you're ready. The question is, are you actually listening to it? Here's what most people get wrong. They think readiness is a feeling, something vague, a hunch. It's not. It's measurable. It's sitting in your chest right now, in the tiny, invisible gaps between every single heartbeat. And elite athletes, surgeons, and pilots are already using it to know when exactly to push and when to pull back. And stick with me today, because this isn't just theory. I'm going to show you an elite competitive shooter who used this to recover mid-competition after a missed shot. A military selection study that could predict who'd pass a brutal course months before it started. And a professional cyclist who used this exact signal to want to win one of the hardest one-day races on the planet. Today, I'm going to show you how to read that signal, and more importantly, how to change it on command in real time before the moment that matters most. Welcome back to the Winning Edge Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kev Oakley, and this is where we break down the tools, tactics, strategies that build a stronger, more resilient mindset so you can perform at your best when it matters the most. In today's episode, the topic is one of the most talked about and most misunderstood performance metrics out there: heart rate variability, HRV. A quick important note before we dive in. This episode is for educational purposes only and isn't medical advice. If you've got any concerns about your health or your physiological data, go talk to a qualified medical professional. This is a performance tool, not a diagnosis. Okay, let's get started. Here's the reality. Most high performers are flying blind when it comes to their internal state. You think you're ready, but your body disagrees. You feel off, but you push through anyway. And that mismatch between what you think and what's actually happening inside you, that's exactly where poor decisions, performance dips, and burnout lives. Let me be clear about something. Performance isn't just about skill. It's about state. And HRV gives you a direct line into that state. Think about the last time you underperformed on something you were fully capable of. Probably wasn't a skill gap, it was a state problem. You walked in wired or flat or scattered, and nobody taught you how to notice that, let alone fix it in the moment. So what actually is HRV? It's the variation time between each heartbeat, not how fast your heart beats, how flexible it is between beats. The Cleveland Clinic described this as a direct readout of your autonomic nervous system, the part of your brain and nerves running in the background, whether you're thinking about it or not. It splits into two branches. The sympathetic system, that's your accelerator, stress, action, intensity. The parasympathetic system, that's your brake, recovery, calm, regulation. And here's a bit of evolutionary context to make this click. Your sympathetic system evolved for one job: get you away from that thing that's trying to kill you. Fast reaction, no subtlety required. Your parasympathetic brake, running through what's called the vagus nerve, is slower and far more precise. It's a system built for digesting food, healing tissue, and thinking clearly, none of which your ancestors needed while being chased by a predator. The problem is your nervous system can't tell the difference between a lion and a looming deadline. It reacts to both the same way. HRV is simply the readout of which one of those ancient systems currently has the upper hand. According to physiological research published in the Global Cardiology Science and Practice, higher HRV reflects effective adaptive function of that nervous system, while lower HRV suggests the system is struggling to adapt. In practical terms, this means higher HRV tends to mean strong recovery, emotional control, and adaptability. Low HRV tends to mean stress overload, fatigue, and reduced regulation. And this isn't just correlation dressed up as insight. Research summarizing the frontiers of public health show parasympathetic brake and sympathetic accelerator are in constant dynamic push-pull, even at rest. Your sympathetic system is doing most of the talking, which is exactly why it's so trainable. That's good news for you, because it means that it isn't fixed. You can build more range into that system with the right inputs, and I'll give you one of those in a moment. But here's the insight almost everyone misses. HRV is not a stress meter. It doesn't hand you a good or bad score. What it's actually telling you is how flexible and adaptable your system is right now. Because elite performance doesn't come from being calm all the time. As the Whoop performance team explains, a well-regulated nervous system is one where both branches, the accelerator and the brake, respond strongly. It comes from being able to shift state on demand. Calm when precision is needed, intense when action is required, controlled in the middle of chaos. That's the real edge. Not calmness, command. Let me show you that this isn't just theory, because HRV has been quietly used by elite performers across completely different arenas, and the same pattern shows up every single time. Start with an elite competitive shooter. In a documented case study, researchers taught her a form of HRV biofeedback called resonant frequency training, in which she learned a bespoke breathing pattern tuned to her own body's rhythm. According to the case study published in Taylor and Francis, she could then use that trained breath on command in the exact moment it mattered. After a missed shot, after an equipment malfunction, in the middle of live competition, to bring her system back to an optimal state almost immediately. Now go further into pressure. Military selection. A 2025 study in applied psychophysiology and biofeedback measured resting HRV in over 350 candidates trying out for elite naval command selection course, taken roughly 2 months before the actual selection process began. On their own, the candidates who passed had a noticeably higher average HRV than those who didn't. Once the researchers controlled for other predictors such as raw fitness, HRV was no longer the standout factor. Fitness carried more of the weight. But here's the part worth thinking about. In a closer matched comparison of similarly fit candidates, HRV still showed up as a meaningful difference between those who passed and those who didn't. In other words, when two candidates look equally fit on paper, the one with the better nervous system flexibility may still have the edge. It's not the whole story, but it's part of it. Months before selection even began. And it's not just extremes. Take professional cycling. Case notes published in My iAthlete describe how professional rider Matt Heyman used daily HRV tracking for years of his career. In the lead up to his famous 2016 Paris-Roubaix, one of cycling's most toughest one-day races, he'd broken his arm just weeks earlier and had to rebuild his form entirely indoors on the bike trainer. He went on to win that race at 37 years old on his 15th attempt after 14 years of trying. And in other seasons, his coaches specifically pointed to his HRV trend as a tool for catching brewing illnesses before it could derail a block of training. A different kind of save, but the same underlying skill. Reading the trend early enough to act on it. None of these people are obsessing over a single morning number. Every one of them was doing the exact same two things I've already given you today. Build a personal baseline and read the trend, not the daily noise, to know when to push and when to protect the system. So, how do you actually use this? I want to give you 4 tools, 3 for context and pattern spotting, and 1 that's a real takeaway that you could use today. Tool number 1, the baseline rule. If you use a tracker, Whoop, Aura, Garmin, whatever's on your wrist, a single reading means almost nothing on its own. 2025 validation study in physiological reports found accuracy actually varies quite a bit between devices, and even the most accurate ones are only useful once you know what normal looks like for you. So track it most mornings for 2 to 4 weeks at a roughly the same time each day and build your own personal range. Your baseline is unique to you. Nobody else's number matters. Tool 2, daily readiness. Once you've got that baseline, checking each morning takes 10 seconds. A reading noticeably above your baseline, you're recovered. Go hard, take on a challenge. Right around your baseline, you're stable. Execute as planned. Below it, load is building. Ease off slightly and prioritize recovery. Significantly below it, for several days running, that's your body asking you to pull back, not push. Tool number 3, the fatigue check. HRV alone doesn't tell the whole story. So cross-check it against 3 quick signals: how you slept, your mood, and how fatigued you feel. Ask yourself, do these 3 line up with what my HRV is telling me? If your HRV is low and your sleep, mood, and energy are all down too, that's not just a rough morning. That's a genuine warning sign worth listening to, not pushing through. Those 3 tools sharpen your decisions across the week if you're already tracking. But you don't need any of them. No device, no baseline, no waiting 2 weeks for the tool that actually matters the most today. And here it is. Tool number 4, pre-performance state control. The one you can use right now. Before any big moment, presentation, a match, a hard conversation, check in with yourself. You don't need data for this. Just ask. Do I feel flat? Do I feel anxious? Or do I feel locked in? Then match your response to what you find. If you're over-aroused, tense, anxious, heart racing, mind spinning, inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds, nasal breathing only. Repeat for 5 minutes. That extended exhale isn't a gimmick. It's a deliberate signal to your vagus nerve, the main channel of your parasympathetic nervous system. A controlled trial published in the Curious Journal found that this kind of slow-paced breathing measurably increased HRV and lowered perceived stress in a matter of weeks. And the effect on your state in the moment is immediate. You feel your system come back under control within minutes. Actually, let's not talk about it. Let's do 10 seconds of it right now, together, wherever you are, only if it's safe to do so. Close your mouth and take 1 slow, deep breath in through your nose for the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out for the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. In through the nose for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out through the nose for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always say to people, don't get too hung up about the 4 and the 6. As long as the out exhale through your nose is longer than the inhale, it does the trick. Okay, let's move on. If you're under aroused, flat, low on energy, no spark before something that demands intensity, flip it. Fast breathing or a few breath holds. Now again, caution here. Breath holds and fast breathing can cause lightheadedness and the potential to pass out. So don't do it near water. Don't do it when you're operating machinery. Only do it when it's safe to do so. The other side is explosive movements, jumps, sprints, something short, shot and sharp. High energy music, you're deliberately switching on the accelerator. And if you check in and you're already locked in, do nothing. Protect it. Don't overthink a state that's already working for you. This is the entire tool. Read your state, then deliberately shift it, rather than just hoping you show up right. One last pattern worth zooming out on, especially if you're already tracking your numbers. Weekly pattern recognition. Don't obsess over any single day. Look at the shape of your week instead. A healthy pattern is HRV dipping after a stressful day or hard session and then rebounding within 1 or 2 or 3 days. That's a nervous system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The warning pattern is different, a gradual decline over 7 to 10 days, HRV staying flat and low with no rebound after rest. That's not a bad day. That's the early, silent signature of burnout building, well before you'd notice it in any other way. Before we move into application, let's clear up 3 things that people consistently get wrong with HRV because they'll trip you up if you don't know them. Myth 1. Higher is always better. Not quite. Extremely well-trained endurance athletes sometimes hit what researchers call high HRV saturation, where their resting heart rate is already so low that their HRV numbers plateau or even dip slightly despite excellent fitness. It's a documented quirk in longitudinal HRV research on elite endurance athletes. The lesson: compare yourself to your own trend, never somebody else's number, and never assume bigger is automatically means better. Myth 2. You need expensive wearable kit to benefit from any of this. You don't. A tracker helps with the baseline, readiness, and trend spotting tools I gave you earlier. That's genuinely useful if you've already got one. But the tool that matters most today, reading your state and deliberately shifting it, requires zero equipment. It's a skill you're building, not a subscription you're buying. Myth 3. You should be checking this constantly throughout the day. Also a no. The research protocols behind everything I've shared today use a single measurement first thing in the morning under consistent conditions, not a running commentary every hour. Checking obsessively just adds noise and, frankly, its own kind of stress. One reading each morning for the trend, then a state check-in whenever you actually need it before something that matters. That's the whole rhythm. Keep those 3 in mind and you'll get far more out of this than someone chasing a perfect number on a screen ever will. Let's make this real. You've got a big presentation in 2 hours. You check in with yourself. Heart rate's up, mind's racing, pressure's building. Old approach, just push through and hope it settles. New approach, the winning edge approach. You notice you're over-aroused. You sit down for 5 minutes. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. All through your nose. And something shifts. You're not reacting to the pressure anymore. You're leading your own physiology. That's the difference between hoping you perform and engineering your performance. Or flip the scenario. You had a flat, low-energy week. Got a competitive match in 20 minutes. You check in. No anxiety. Just nothing. Low spark. That's under-arousal, not calm. So instead of sitting still and hoping it passes, you do the opposite of the breathing drill. A few explosive movements, some fast breathing, high energy music in your ears. 2 minutes later, you're switched on. Same tool, same principle, opposite direction. Because the goal was never calm. It was command. And that flat, low energy week itself is worth paying attention to. Research from 100 Health and overtraining studies published in Quality in Sport both back up the weekly pattern I just gave you. It's far easier to act on a flat trend early than to deal with full burnout once it's already landed. One more, because this doesn't just apply to sport or the stage. Picture a tense negotiation or a difficult one-to-one with your manager. You notice your jaw's tight, you're breathing shallow, your thoughts are already 3 steps ahead into worst case scenario territory. It's over-arousal again, just in a boardroom instead of a stadium. The tool doesn't change because the setting did. You still run the same check-in, the same breath before you walk through that door. The whole point of building this as a skill rather than a sport-specific trick is that it travels with you into every high-stakes room you ever walk into. We've covered a lot today, so let's summarize all of it. HRV isn't a pass-fail test, it's a flexibility signal. An elite shooter, a naval selection cohort, and a Paris-Roubaix winner all point to the same underlying skill. Reading your internal state and acting on the trend, not the noise. Peak performance doesn't come from maximum calm. It comes from state alignment. Calm when you need precision. Intense when you need action. And here's your one actionable takeaway from today. The thing I want you to actually use. Before your next high stakes moment, check in with your state in 10 seconds. Flat, anxious, or locked in. And if you're anxious or tense, run the breath. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Through the nose for 5 minutes. That's it. No app, no wearable, just you deliberately taking command of your nervous system before the moment that matters. Remember to track your baseline if you use a device. Use daily readiness to guide how hard you push each day. Cross-check with the fatigue signals when something feels off. And watch your weekly trend so you can catch burnout while it's still whispering instead of shouting. But if you remember nothing else from today, remember this. Elite performers don't chase a perfect number on a screen. They train the ability to shift their state on demand. That's the winning edge. That's it for today's episode. If this episode gave you an edge today, do 2 quick things for me. First, share it with someone who performs under pressure. A colleague before a big pitch, an athlete before a big game, a friend who's got a conversation coming up, anyone who could use a tool like this the next time it counts. Send them this episode right now before you forget. This could genuinely change how they show up when it matters the most. Second, if you're not already following or subscribed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from, hit that button before you move on to whatever's next in your feed. We're back on Wednesday with our shorter Wednesday episode, so following means you get both the deep dives and the quick hit tools every single week without missing either one. And can I ask a quick favor? If this podcast has helped you even once, today or any episode before this one, take 30 seconds and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It costs you nothing, but it's genuinely the single biggest thing that helps this show reach more high performers who need exactly this kind of tool. I read every single one, and I mean that. It matters more than you can imagine. Until next time, go lead your physiology. Don't just survive the pressure. command it.